Welcome everybody to yet another extraordinary Zoom meeting of the Ilsley Parish Council. Any apologies? None, I guess. So we are expecting Steve, and we are quorate, which is good. So we need to firstly approve the minutes from the planning meeting of the 9th of June. Has everybody read them, and are they an accurate description of the meeting that took place on 9th of June?
Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah.
Excellent. Fen, so if you can take that as ratified, and then I'll sign them as and when we are next socially distanced. Any declarations of interest? Oh, there's Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
You haven't missed much. We've just ratified the minutes from the previous meeting. Are you okay with those? You're on mute. Are you okay with the minutes from the last meeting? Yeah?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Okay. So anyone got any pecuniary interests that need registering? No?
No.
Thank you. Okay. On to the item for discussion today, playground revamp, to discuss the outlines of the various phases of the project. Fen, do you want to quickly just tell us where we are in terms of what amounts and things we have to play with at the moment? So just clarify for everyone.
Okay, so we moved some money into an earmarked reserve.
Yep.
Playground, and this is to cover repair, replace, inspection. So
yep.
Closing balance as of 30th of March was £20,350.
Okay.
And we have recently received our Waitrose community token money of £333.
Yeah.
Which has also been transferred to the earmark reserve for playground. So we're looking at about
20,683.
Yeah, £83.
Okay.
We have already ratified at a previous meeting on the 21st of April that CJM Services would conduct the urgent repairs that were flagged after our annual inspection report. And his quotation came in at just shy of £2,900, but the work was phased. His first start of repair is week commencing 22nd of June. And the only thing we're currently not going to be doing is the cableway. That's quite an involved piece of repair work that needs to be done on that. And actually, after speaking to some playground people yesterday, we really do need to consider the cost of repairs versus a
replacement.
New one.
And in terms of this quote of 2.9, would that include this cableway repair, or would that be additional?
Part of it included repair of 2 of the main struts that hold up the structure. I've had some subsequent emails from Chris that some further investigation needs to be done. So what we've done is sort of remove that from that quote. So potentially we've got some spare money out of that 2,900 that can go into this next phase. But it does leave the cableway as being untouched, because I think that could grow considerably once it's investigated properly.
Does the cableway remain unsafe though?
Absolutely, it is unsafe, and we've removed the seat. You cannot use it.
Okay, so it can't in theory be used, or couldn't be considered dangerous?
It is dangerous, but having removed the seat, it's inaccessible now. You can't use it as it is. The concern is that because they're quite exciting, adults go on them.
Right.
We can't stop adults going on them. They're fun. But yeah, the problem is the fact that it might, some of the tension in the wire's gone, and some of the struts have rotted from the ground up.
Right.
So we need to be very careful with that, which is why we're reluctant to rush with that one.
Okay. And CJ didn't come back with any indication of the balance of cost between replacement and repair.
No, because replacement would need to be done by a proper company. He is just
Right,
a
okay.
repairman.
All right. So he's basically saying he can't repair it, but
He can, but it would require brand new timbers. And because we're looking
Okay.
at timbers that are so large, we need to weigh up the cost between a new one and a replacement.
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Cool. Okay. So so the repair work that needs doing is going to cost 2.5.
2.5, yeah.
All bodes well, doesn't it? Okay. So I suppose what we need to do then is consider, we've got 3 quotes, have we? And they all fit within this envelope, yeah?
Give or take, yes.
Yeah.
Give or take. Okay. But I guess with the additional funding we just those 400 or 500 quid plus the 300 from Waitrose, we're probably near or there with all of it.
Yeah, we're talking sort of pounds rather than thousands
Yeah.
of pounds being out.
Thousands or hundreds massively out. Okay. Right. Anyone got any questions?
I think the only one I've got is around the COVID money.
Yeah.
And, and if I'm trying to get my head around how it works, not take the COVID money, put it to one side. I'm trying to get around if we set up a group called the Playground Group and the parish council pledge the money to them. Can that group then say, we've got this money, and then go to Green and Common Trust and say, we've got this, can you double it for us? That's the only thing I'm kind of concerned about is if we've gone to the parish council, they're going to say no. But if we've got like a little group that we gifted the money to them, I mean, is that how it works? I'm a bit of a loss of how that works, that whole system.
Well, let me pick up firstly, because what I was hoping to do was I spoke to Chris Bolton, who runs Greenham Common, with a view that because their finance dates run on specific dates where they give grants out, so the next one isn't until October. What they have been doing is they've raised a heck of a lot of money locally for COVID projects. But you have to effectively relate to why is it a COVID project? So I asked him the question, well, would doing a project like this count as being COVID work? Because it would obviously allow the community to get out and benefit from it who've been locked down accordingly. Sadly, they came back and said no, which Brendan's copied into.
Yeah.
So then that relates back to their original schedule of the original application, which is that they won't be making any grant payments, I don't believe, till October. The other issue we've got, and I don't have an answer, is because I almost got caught myself via my role that they can't fund match the people who are applying because the HMRC consider it money laundering, because effectively you're putting in £10 and they're going to give you £10 back, and the HMRC take a very dim view of that sort of thing. So
okay, but then that's interesting. So then, Brendan, can we not get one of the group who's on the Playground Group? They apply because it's not you then. That's not money laundering then, is it? They can't really say that. So if we've got a Playground Group set up, it's separate from the parish council, and it's not you, Brendan, someone else, then surely that ticks the boxes, and can we not get the funding that way? I just want to make sure that, I want to turn that 19.5 into 38 and 39 or whatever it's going to be, If we can do that, and if it means we wait 2 months, I know that's not good because people want to be using the stuff, but I'd much rather turn that 19.5 and double it if we've got a chance. And it means, yeah, it's uncomfortable that kids won't be able to use it for a few months because we have to wait till October. I'd much rather we got value for money from that. But I mean that's the thing. I wish we could actually get more for our buck or whatever, you know. I don't know how it works. That's
Okay, thanks. Brendan, do you want to come in and give us what your view of
so
where we
the
are?
upshot is, the upshot is the idea of us doubling our money ain't happening. It's quite simple. It's not going to happen. We need to get with the program. She has documented that she knows the parish council is given 15 plus 4. So as far as Greenham Trust are concerned, unless we can convince them and show them that we have a separate entity that's been legally set up and that the money has moved, she said, because I already know that you guys, as in the parish council, have funded this, we are now mindful, Green, and we're watching East Ilsley. And we have 2 campaigns at the moment, one for the playground, obviously, and one for the church. So
Okay.
we're ready and waiting. You can't have anything because the parish council is giving that money into the fund. So what we're calling now phase 2, by the way, everybody. Phase 1 is repair. Phase 2 is this. And phase 3 is obviously the future Greenham Trust funding that we now might be able to deliver now over the next year. And they'll match it up to 5,000. But it's a laugh. I mean, Andrew's been on those emails and I've had multiple calls over the last couple of weeks. It's a pipe dream. Let's get with the program. It's an absolute pipe dream. Unless someone's health related, it's COVID, you ain't getting nothing. You get up to 5 grand if you're lucky. Outside of that, you know, it's down to fundraising. So if we can raise money, if people like the Crown and Horns who said they were going to look and see if they could help us, if they can give us a lump of cash that goes through the good exchange, then we still won't be able to double their money, but once we get up to over 5,000, and they'll give us 5,000. But it's just extra money in the village to be asking people to put their hands in the pockets of different projects to hand towards phase 3 funding.
I tell you,
1
I
second,
tell you who's
everyone.
got money. We can't do it now, obviously, but it would have been nice to see if we could have asked for some cash from Dyson, but that's not going to happen now, is it?
So Dyson said they can't give us a dime unfortunately. This was a year and a half ago before any of the planning came up. Can't give you anything, but what I can do is I can help you guys do the fencing and everything around the perimeter of the playground. Very happy to help with that. Very happy to fund that for you guys. But in terms of equipment, buying equipment and so forth, and giving you cash to put into your fund, you can forget it. It ain't happening. They're not allowed to.
Okay,
Ben.
Sorry.
Can I
Ben.
unmute Meg because she's got some stuff to say about this? Is that
No,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just going to come to that, but equally, we do we need to stand the meeting down for a bit?
No, it's fine for this.
Okay. Meg, go right ahead.
Hi, thank you. I was just going to say it is exactly that point about being a separate legal entity. You'd need to apply, you need to be a separate legal entity with a governing group. You need to have your own bank account that has a certain number of bank statements. You need to have minuted meetings and all that kind of stuff. It can't just be moved across and then have somebody else apply in a different name. It's quite formal. And also on the Dyson thing, as Brendan said, we did ask Dyson.
Yeah.
Okay. So where I'm still slightly sketchy, and I just need this for my tiny brain, we've got a repair bill of 3, and was that not included in the 20,350?
Yes, that's coming out of earmark reserves. Yeah.
So yeah, reverting back to the question I asked originally, Fen, what are we allowed to spend? If, bearing in mind, we're going to do the repairs, and then we're going to potentially buy some kit, what are we actually allowed to spend?
Right.
Do
So
you
we've
think?
got 2350 plus minus 18183.
Right. So that's actually what the figure we can actually commit to at this meeting on whichever project is considered the most appropriate. So any other questions, any of this stuff from anyone else before we actually start looking at quotes and other
That
matters?
18183 is less VAT, yeah? So it's without VAT, because we can get VAT back.
So VAT we would pay as normal, but that would come back in April next year. So we could use general reserves to pay for the VAT, for example. Or we
I'm
could
just looking at the compound quote though, because that's just over 18,000 pre-VAT and it's 3,600, so it is a big lump to come out of the account, isn't it? For
we could, if we decide who we're going to go for, we could transfer from general reserves a top up.
Yeah.
And then
it will rebalance out anyway. So
when we get
from a
it
net
back,
figure, from a net point of view, you're not moving anything.
No, because we'd get that back from HMRC anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, so
Thank you.
the only other thing I was going to ask was I saw an email then about our reserves, and now are we? I'm asking you because you do other stuff with other parish councils that you have done. Now, have we got loads of cash that we shouldn't have, and what does it mean?
Okay,
I'm just really interested to know what that means.
Okay.
Because I don't want it to implicate us in the future.
All right. So the governance and accountability group that have been set up by NAUC, the National Association of Local Councils, and the SLCC, the Society of Local Council Clerks, have put together a document that explains to parish councils how they should be governing their finance. So we're classified as a smaller authority, and the recommendation is that in our general reserves, so forget about earmark reserves, just general reserves, we should only have 12 months net revenue spend sat in the bank account. So on that spreadsheet, if you look at our net revenue expenditure by year, you can see that 1920, we actually spent 19,857. So in our general reserves, as a smaller authority, we should be holding, for argument's sake, 20k in our general reserves. And that's not money to spend, that's money there as backup in case we don't get a precept, because we don't have to. We apply for one, West Berkshire Council give us one, but they can always say no. So we might not get one, or there could be some other business critical shortfall, which means we're not getting any income like we have done previously. So in order for us to run, we have to be able to pay our way from our general reserves. That's the very basic of it. So 20 grand we should have in our general reserves. Actually this year we had 31,603. So we had £11,746 over what we should be carrying in our general reserves. So what should happen is that should be earmarked to a project and justified. But it shouldn't be sat in general reserves. And at the moment it's sat in there because our earmark reserves currently stand at 31,436. So ordinarily it's not a problem because the internal auditors know we're small, and we should not be draining our bank accounts at the end of each year. That is bad practice. But the external auditor could ask us, why have we got £11,700 not allocated to anything? And worst case scenario is that could be taken off of us. It could lead to implications for future precept requests, which could be turned down because we've got money, so why are we asking for more? So that spreadsheet, the analysis I've sent you, is designed to let you know that we really need a project plan, and we need to earmark these reserves, otherwise we could lose them.
Ben, can I just come in there, because one of the prevailing factors that's allowed the council to carry an amount of money for a period of time is if you know, or if you potentially have projects, the auditors basically said, well, if you're likely to do something, then you are allowed to carry additional
Absolutely.
reserves. So this
Yes.
is not a, you know, thou shalt not. So in previous years, when there was talk about things like the Baptist Church project and things like this, effectively that would give you the cover to keep the reserves at a certain level. We've equally got things like the pond to sort out going forward. We've got to decide what we're doing with traffic. So I'm more than comfortable with where the reserves are at the moment, knowing how much that's likely to cost. And of course, just generally having some reserves should you need something, because that's certainly helped with, you know, things like the flood kits. Although we got a grant for it, if potentially you didn't have it, you know, we now wouldn't have things like that. You wouldn't have the containers with kit for the fireworks and various other bits and bobs in it. So it's a bit of a misnomer to say you should only carry a year's worth in, because as with everything, that would mean, you know, you've got enough money and stuff for the year, but nothing else. So
But that doesn't include earmark reserves.
Yeah, okay.
It's
And the
completely
other thing
separate.
we need to, I raised this at least a year and a bit ago, because one of my colleagues leads Blueberry Parish Council. When he found out how much money we were sitting on, he had a fit. He said he doesn't understand why a resident in the village has not phoned up West Park and asked for us to be looked at, and some of that money to be taken back. Or
well, because I've just equally told you, because we had projects where we might have been doing stuff, and equally we've considered them, and they've been passed over as yes, no, or whatever. So we don't currently have an amount of money needed to sort the pond out. We've got guesstimates. So you know, it nothing ever is black and white, but it's about, you know, you're quite right that in terms of getting a project plan, and we have it for most of the reserves. And I think if you include things that we know are going to come up, you know, I'm reasonably comfortable with where they are, because we know we've got a commitment to do this project. We know we've got to do something with the pond. And then that's before we get to anything like traffic or anything like that, which may or may not need contributions. So I'm reasonably comfortable, and the auditors have never pointed out that there is a problem. So yes, while the chair of Blueberry Parish Council may think, you know, things are very different, every parish council tends to be different depending on, they've, you know, most of them have got things like village halls, which they've put huge amounts of money into at some points, and we haven't. So, you know, we are where we are.
Wait for this is the first year we've been externally audited, so we need to check when they come back. And as you said, earmark that money, set up project, outline the village. It's pond, it's 20,000, it's this, it's 12,000, this 5,000, and then run with it, and then everyone's very clear what we're actually spending money on.
Yeah,
we
I
can
agree.
work on that.
I agree. So, any other questions from anyone around the whole kind of project thing? The only one I've got, Brendan, is on, and thank you for coming back with the questions. That was really super helpful, I have to say. On the Berkshire Community Fund, what was their sort of reason for not being interested? Can you remember?
Meg, is Meg on there? Meg, right now, hold on, just check. No.
Because they're normally pretty good.
It just doesn't fit within their criteria. They've got very specific criteria at the moment, and it doesn't fit within any of the sort of, they're looking at 4 or 5 different things, and it doesn't fit with any of them. One of the specific ones they're looking at for children is children with physical disabilities, and it doesn't, just a general playground doesn't fit within that.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. And then the only other one, Brendan, it's more an observation and a question. If we're running 2 sources where people can contribute and fundraising in the crowdfunding and the Greenham Common application, are we clear where we want various things to go?
Yeah, so the folk of the business, so if, for example, let's say the Crown decided to give us some money, that would go into the good exchange. If
Yeah.
I decide personally out of my own household with my name on it, I want to put some money towards it, then they would stick it into the crowdfunding plan. Speaking to Jill and obviously at Good Exchange, the clarity was put in terms of if the business generates funds, or else you go out and do a tombola and you take that cash in from the tombola from the village, and you can give us that money and put that into the Good Exchange. The plan would be businesses will go into the Good Exchange directly, and then if we do anything in the village or the working group do anything and raise funds and bike-a-thon, whatever, that money will be collected together and then will be put in to the Good Exchange platform.
Because the Good Exchange also does gift aid on personal donations as well.
Once
So I
it
know
goes
Just
in,
Giving
yeah.
does.
If the VAT, yeah.
But for personal, because they asked the question, you know, are you a taxpayer? Because then
Are you
you
a
get a gift
taxpayer?
aid as well. Yeah. So I think really it's just making sure we don't confuse people in terms of, at the end of the day, it probably doesn't matter which one they go in,
Yeah.
because we should get the same benefit. Although again, you know, what Chris Bolton said to me basically was, in terms of, as an application, I think we've got a fighting chance of getting a good chunk of that actually allocated in October. So yes, we have to raise to get the £5,000 fund matching, but in terms of the balance of the whole project, I'd be very surprised if the funders in Greenham, which is Englefield and Peter Baker, don't come up with a very big lump of it. Because remember, they've got more money than know what to do with. Every year they're appealing for people to put in projects. So, but again, sadly, with that sort of thing, you can't actually bank on it, because you never know whether they're going to give you the balance, a bit of it, all of it, or whatever. Okay, so there's no other questions around any of those bits from anybody. So all we've really got to start doing is considering quotes, guarantees. Brenda, did you get the bit about the sort of mitigation of usage and stuff, and making sure that we've got some work done on, I don't know, depending on when and if things go in, COVID planning, so that we know we can't have 200 people up there at once? Or
No, the thing is both all providers, so Redland and the others, the turnaround now has obviously come that they can deliver the playground within 4 to 5 weeks of what we want, which then means that it would be in place by before the school holidays. Forest more than likely will be coming down now in the next 4 or 5 weeks and starting to release open the ability to be able to engage. But then it's up to us whether he then turns around and says you can only have 50 people in the playground at once. How to police that? That's a separate note. The idea is people will be allowed to go out and engage in the playground. And as we know, more than ever, because they've been locked up in their houses and haven't been able to go anywhere, now is the time that they're going to want to get out there and sit in the playground or play football in the recreation or whatever. So now the magnification of that is going to come when he takes lockdown down another level.
okay, so that is something we do need to consider, depending on when we get confirmed delivery dates and installation dates. That we might.
But that's
have
a
to think
separate
about.
note to say. I'm sorry, villagers.
No.
We
It's
do
no. You're missing my point. You're missing my point. If you create a problem, you have to be able to work out how you're going to mitigate it as well. So it is, but it isn't. But we've got to be thinking, what mitigation steps are we going to put in, or potentially suggest, or whatever. So in terms of delivery dates and guarantees and things like that, because you know, one of the sad things we learned from the last playground was, you know, we had a 10-year guarantee which was worthless because the company went bang, because they put so many playgrounds in with dodgy wood. It actually took them down. Where are we with the quotes and the companies, in your opinion?
So most of them are now giving 15 to 20-year guarantees. The other one, just for comp plan, is 10 on some elements. But we've already discussed this, that the fact is once that playground goes in, whatever shape it may take, we would take insurance against the organisations. But luckily, these organisations, as they are very clear to give evidence on, started 25, 28 years ago, and there's some playgrounds they've put in that are still going very well, got the photographs and evidence that they're still going, and they haven't had to have massive remedial works. So there's a confidence there that they are a well-established provider, but let's not just sit on them, let's insure against them, so if they fold or go insolvent,
we've got some backup. So from the playground group's perspective, where are we in terms of which scheme or which provider we think?
Yeah, what's your brand?
Well, we looked at Red Lynch, and we identified, looking at a breakdown of the families in the village who would need, what this playground in phase 2 would need to deliver on, and that is under 5s. Under 5s makes a good proportion, children under 5 years of age in this village, plus having an activity centre in the playground, which is obviously, to me, is like, you know, the high-rise apparatus for kids of kind of any age, not your 18-year-old, but definitely above 5 to 14 years of age or whatever, might be able to utilise that. So we focused on the swings, replacing them for the under 5s, plus also putting the activity centre into phase 2. And then obviously as funding gets raised over the next 12 months, we might be able to then start looking at additional items. But we will have the repair of what I like to call the adult swings, and obviously then we can have a conversation about what we're going to do with the zip wire. But that will kind of deal with the current playground once it's done. There's obviously more we can do, definitely more we can do, but that's not urgent. That can be planned in phase 3 now, obviously. We can plan it in. So we focused on what can deliver for the village and the families in the village now,
Okay.
if we roll it out now.
And in terms of, while, you know, everyone will tell you they can always do everything before they get given the order, have we got any either written undertakings, or can we put anything in place such that if they say, you know, if we go with you, you'll deliver and install by, you know, July the 8th or something, that, you know, if come July the 20th there's no sign of anything?
We can, with Red Lynch, because Red Lynch and Sovereign was the other organisation, but they just cannot fit the numbers financially, so they've had to come out. But with Red Lynch, they've done 2 site visits and the samples and everything. So we're well entrenched in terms of how they work as a business. Definitely, they won't get a final dime. No problem from business perspective to say you won't be getting a dime until it's actually installed. They're very happy to work with us, not to hand over all the cash in one go. That's a given. Okay. We stage it out until it's delivered, then inspected, and then they get the final installment.
Cool. And Fen, from a legal perspective, have we got the suitable quotes in that we need? Because
shall I just share quickly?
Yes, please.
So can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's Red Lynch. So Red Lynch are looking at supplying the cradle swing set and the climbing activity centre. And these prices are all excluding VAT. There is obviously welfare and fencing to protect people whilst the install's there. So we're looking at 19.8. That is over what we've got in our funds, but it looks pretty cool.
Yep.
I mean, big slide, little slide, so something for all the ages. You know, you've got the element of risk, you've got height, which is coordination and that kind of thing, which is really good for those children. And the cradle swings are just sort of your standard bucket seats for toddlers. Compan offering very similar. So theirs is a 4-tower unit with net and bridges. That's coming in at 6.9. And then the toddler carousel is more of it's got 3 seats rather than 2 for babies.
Right.
And that's coming in at 3.3. And then the grass mat, single layer safety surface for below for both of them. So that is coming in at where's the final? At 18.
18.
Okay,
So they're
that's in
slightly
budget.
that's slightly cheaper as well.
Yeah.
And just a second, I've read through them. What I'm seeing is that, and I had to look up what black wet pour was, so forgive me. But in the first quote that we talked about, red lynch, it includes a rubber bonded wet pour surface installed on site. In the compound quote, it doesn't include that, and it looks like it's an extra £5,000 or thereabouts, 4,700, because you choose which depth you want in the alternative items at about £4,000. It's about 700 quid to excavate it. But then what compound have added that the other quote hasn't got as well is an independent inspection that may be required for insurance risk at £421. So we need to kind of weigh up between those two quotes as to, you know, if we're getting one with a base and a surface, then the £20,000 is about £2,000, £2,500 cheaper, but it doesn't include an inspection. So those are the, if anybody else has picked out any differences, then please let me know, but that's what I've seen so far.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And what about the third one?
Yeah. Sorry, I just have to move my screen sharing thing out the way. So this has come from who I met yesterday, Playdale. These guys have been going since 1735.
Wow.
And they're massive in the playgrounds for schools, recreation grounds, and outdoor activities at gyms and that kind of thing. So they've got something called a Twist Plus, which is an activity centre, and they've got cradle swings. So they have quoted us for the black grass lock surfacing, which is the same as Compan's original, not the alternative. When I told him that the other companies had quoted us for the wet pour mulch, he was quite surprised because you tend not to use that on grassed areas.
Okay.
It's not a good surface to put on grassed areas. You use a bonded wet pour mulch on concrete areas because it provides a layer of bounce.
Yeah.
Whereas in grass, you've already got that layer, and so to pour something hard on top of grass is pointless.
Yeah, with you.
That's quite interesting. Both Compan and Playdale say that the grass matting that we've already got up there is what we need. So underneath the nest rotator, which is in the corner by the cableway, is sort of grass matting built into the grass. That's what we need. That's all we really need. So the bonded rubber mulch as an alternative, actually, it shouldn't be really have been quoted on a grassed area. But
okay.
That's what he told me.
Right.
So does that mean we need a, sorry, friend, does that mean we need a breakdown then of that? Because they've got put in a MOT type 1 sub base and then do the wet pour on top, all in for that 3,700.
Is this for red lynch?
Yes, because it's all inclusive, including a base and wet pour. So they're actually adding a hard surface into the bottom of it and then wet pouring on top.
Yeah, they are.
So if we're doing that straight into the ground with matting, for an example, because the grass is good, then that quote could be dramatically reduced, I would guess, by thousands.
Yeah, I feel like compared to the others, either red lynch haven't done theirs right, or something majorly's gone wrong here, because I
mean, they're talking about 87 meters there of square meters of stuff in the bottom of it, which is, you know, if we look at the other quote, it's kind of equivalent to that £4,500. So
here
we're just going for some grass matting or whatever. We could potentially get this down to maybe £15,000 as a quote plus VAT, and then not have the wet pour. Please speak up if I'm talking out of turn or it's not the right thing.
Right.
Just message as you speak, Micah.
I didn't catch that, Brendan.
Brendan, which one do you like?
I'm just my mute. My personal opinion is obviously because of the multiple times I've been out and looking at the actual equipment itself and taking samples of it. I'm for Redlink. I'm a fan of Redlink because we started with them from the start. And the others are definitely, Complan are well established. No doubt about that. I don't know much about the Playday one because obviously quietly that was the last minute add-in.
I mean, my view is that Brendan, it's your kind of project and you've ran it. And if you've got a preference, I'm happy to give your preference.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. I pinged him a message anyway just to clarify. Because they came out, the conversation started with how we could bring the bill. Originally, remember, the bill was a lot more because it was a huge playground. It was in at 45, 50,000. But even then, they came out, looked at it and said, you know, the sort of the basic, what I would like to call the bark stuff that we all put into our gardens effectively would make the bill really, really cheap. But people are not doing that anymore simply because of the chemicals effectively in it and everything. So the objective was you would use this quite deep base because of the height of the apparatus. If you fell off it, it would be the bounce level in the finer detail. So that's what they've been going on and been really hard about, is especially on the playing tower, because of the height. They're talking about the physical bounce that you need to put in to cover us legally and obviously health and safety wise. Well, I posed that question anyway to him just to check where there is some shavings to be had potentially.
Yeah, because I think from my perspective, you know, it's about getting, you know, some guarantees in terms of deliveries and install, making sure we're not paying for stuff we shouldn't be or that's inappropriate. So we don't want, you know, as Mike was saying, the wrong surface putting in for the sake of giving them some work. And equally, I wonder whether, you know, in doing that, you know, we can start actually doing a bit of horse trading in terms of saying if they can all turn up on that date, who can hit, you know, absolutely within our budget, because it's not very much, but, you know, you notice what people are charging for, because, you know, you notice the people who wanted the inspection report at 400 quid, you know, and the other lot aren't doing it. Well, you know, can we get an inspection report from all of them, or will the people doing the inspection report throw that in to secure the project, etc., etc.? You know, we really are at that point where we're ready to press the button, but we just want to get the absolute best and comparable as well, because as Mike said, if one lot are quoting for a base we might not need,
I think Ben, actually, you can answer this because you and I had a conversation with this at least 6 or 7 months ago. We're already in for inspection, aren't we? We're already legally in for an inspection that comes
I
in.
thought we were
in January.
at the end of the year.
Well, hang on, you told me to cancel it, which I did.
Oh, good, excellent. I'm glad I said that. Good. So that's good. That's good, because I was thinking we were already paying for that, but we shouldn't have paid.
Yeah. So when they turned up at Christmas and didn't tell us, and the previous clerk had signed you up to a rolling annual resubmission, you asked me to cancel that. So no, we have not got a playground inspection scheduled for 2020. We would need to set that up ourselves.
Have we budgeted for one?
Well, that's in the earmark reserves because it's repair, replace.
No, well, I'm just saying, again, you know, it's important. Do we know how much it was, Fen?
180.
Okay. So straight away, we've got 180 from an external, and someone wants to charge us 423.
Yeah. Just checking. Are we sure that that's, when they say inspection, are they not just inspecting that bit of kit they put in? It's not playground inspection, annual thing.
No. It's the kit that they've installed.
So they're charging us to inspect the kit that they've put in.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. Why on earth would you're buying something, you go and buy a new TV, you don't pay someone to inspect it once you put it in the house.
Can I just bring Meg in here because she's had her hand up? Meg.
I just want to say the other reason that we looked at different surfaces, if you remember, Brendan, was all about the maintenance as well going forward.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we were really keen on was to try and keep it looking as smart as possible and the maintenance down as low as possible. And so putting in the wet lock surface was really going to help with that, as opposed to the grass ones, which I think the grass and thistles etc to grow through, and then you've got more of a maintenance issue. So that was one of the reasons we looked at the other surfaces.
Okay, that seems more than reasonable. So in terms of longevity,
it's got long, it will last longer. The more it is a more complicated thing to install, but it will last longer.
Okay. Right, everybody. So I'm wondering, Fen, where that leaves us in terms of actually finalising and approving something, because part of the problem we've got is the 3 quotes aren't all entirely comparing like with like. There's not much difference, but there are some differences, because if one quote doesn't include this surface and it is £5,000 more, then that throws that over.
I mean, as usual, that happens, Andrew, I think, with a lot of people that do this configure price quote thing, where they put into an application, let's do this, let's do that. It comes out in a different format. I think we just need to be very specific when we're going back saying we expect you to bring all the safety equipment with you and provide for the people that are working on site. We expect you to provide and install the equipment. We expect to have, if we want one, a base excavation and an installation, and we expect it to be inspected afterwards. And just say, are all of those things in your quote? And then we can compare between the two. And if there's some horse trading to do with, we prefer one over the other and there's a 500 quid difference, we can ask them to change it. But I think we need to be very specific with the, at a very high level of those line items that we're expecting to see in the quotation.
So for the practicalities of actually moving this forward, do we need to absolutely finally approve this budget of whatever it was, 18,183?
Well, I'm thinking 18 now, if we're going to think about our annual play inspection fee of 180 quid.
Although I think we can probably pull that out of the annual budget, because it probably should have gone in, because it needs to go in going forward anyway. So
it's on our budget. It is on our budget, but it was moved to earmark reserves because it was
okay. So I think at a subsequent meeting we'll need to move that amount of money out to cover that, which we'll either take from reserves or adjust spending on something else, or take from S106 or something like that.
Okay.
So we can approve that budget, but I need to understand that if when we go back to the suppliers, unless we get guaranteed delivery and install date that's the same, the exact spec that's the same, how are we going to actually say, can we do it by email following, I suppose, ratification of final quotes and final delivery dates?
If we could resolve that as a full council, the balance of the EMR of approximately 18,183, you ratify that you're happy to spend that on a piece of playground equipment that fits our requirements.
Yeah.
Then we can fine tune the quote later. It's actually about the expenditure of the money, when we can ratify on email the final quote.
Excellent. So Brendan, does that get you where you need to be tonight?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's about effectively authorising that we will be spending that money, and then we will go back to the.
So rather than us actually going, it's Red Lynch or it's Complan or it's Play-Doh or whatever.
My preference is Red Lynch, and Red Lynch is what we want to do, what we want to pay, and negotiate, because we've got to build a relationship of physical delivery and more importantly visits. We know a bit more about them. We're more confident because we've had a couple of years of working with them. So I'm more keen on them, so I'm getting them to fit into our box. of what we want. But remember, these guys are delivering playgrounds that you've never seen. I mean, these suppliers are delivering hundreds of thousands of playgrounds, and we are going to them, and the working group are aware of this, making the team. We're going to them with this kind of money that we're asking them for phase 2, and they're going, okay, we can help you. But remember, we're working on £150,000 projects of GSI when we go out towards a bloody 180,000.
Sorry, you're
But we're saying the kind of investment that we're pushing in, that we're going, shit, can you bring it down a level, please? Find me. Which we will do, it's common negotiation. We're chicken.
Oh, and no, I absolutely realise that. But what I don't want to do is go with someone who's going to come back with a bill that's 22 when we've got a bill of someone else that's 18. Effectively, it's just about making sure we're getting what we think we're getting, like for like. Because on any kind of PC piece of business, you don't go with your favourite, the guys you think are the nicest. You go with the people who provide the best value of money to give you what you need. That's why we've bothered with 3 quotes. So it's absolutely down to just the nuts and bolts of going. What's the surface? What's the guarantee? What's the guaranteed delivery and install date? Will you absolutely come back to us that it will be this? That, as Mike said, Mike, I think it'd be helpful if any of that spec you were talking about could be emailed over so that we're really clear.
Yes. Yeah.
And site left as is, etc. Any bits of fence that get bust get repaired. It's snags and stuff like that when you actually get to the actual project delivery. So I think we can do all that.
The payment plan as well would be key. The payment plan here would be key, because in personal, nobody's getting a dime till we're happy, the remainder. And anybody that knows me knows you will not be getting paid, I don't care who you are, unless you're delivering what we need. So we pop them over a barrel. We
have, but I would imagine that we'll all of them will presumably, when they get the order, want some form of deposit, or will they, or won't they?
It does say on the Red Lynch quote, it says, the quotation is subject to payment within 7 days of invoice. I thought Brendan said that there was a payment plan.
Yeah, there's a payment plan. They on delivery of the item, because remember there's an installation charge and everything. So we won't be paying anything till it's fully installed, as in the remaining balance. The payment plan effectively will be based on, obviously they need to have a slice of money when we first put the order in, and no one's going to pay up front for playground.
But that's not what's in their terms. That's what's worrying me. It's not in their terms. It says the content of this contract. You must, subject to payment within 7 days of invoice.
Yeah. But we won't be paying an invoice till it's been installed and inspected.
Yeah, but it's from date of invoice.
It says non-payment within 7 days will result in removal of all the Red Lynch leather installation.
Yeah, so it does imply it would have been installed.
Surface and products, yeah. So I think it's supply and then invoice afterwards. That looks like that.
Yeah.
But you must pay within 7 days of that snagging, I would guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough. So, so can I have someone to propose the 18183?
Yes, I propose it.
And seconded, I presume. All those in favour indicate.
Yeah.
So that's unanimously passed. So Brendan, I think all we've got to do now is literally just get the 3 quotes lined up so that we can see exactly what we're getting, when we're getting it, and then we'll approve by email.
Yeah. Fine. Okay.
Yes. So we kind of can't go through the other points on the agenda in terms of confirming timescales and things like that, because we're waiting on effectively the placement of the order for them to confirm.
Exactly. They won't confirm Jack until they've had the order.
Yeah. So when do you think you'll be able to get that info to us, Brendan? Sort of end of the week?
Well, I'm speaking to him in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Because I made him aware of what we were doing, because obviously they're asked questions about where are we at.
I'll email my stuff out as soon as I can write it after the call.
Perfect.
Has anyone else got any points or questions they want to make, or riders, caveats, anything like that? Okay, so item 6, questions or comments from members of the public. Anybody got anything? No? Fabulous. So there we go, 3 minutes to 6. I'll declare the meeting closed.